Howard Stern. So they didn't put a video out? That's weird.
Let's do Cat also. You want to do this one real quick?
Yeah.
Let's do Cat.
Yeah.
What's going on with Cat? So
Get your exclusive reporting.
So Cat is running for Congress in Illinois.
Yeah.
Correct.
Right.
Chicago area.
Chicago
So
area.
she just had a debate. Cat Abughazeleh, Palestinian American, running as kind of the most left wing candidate against Daniel Biss, who was the mayor of Evanston, and kind of like an Elizabeth Warren type.
It's a low
liberal.
bar.
Yeah.
And
Progressive
Laura
for
Fine,
sure, but not exactly like Bernie Wing.
right? And then Laura Fine, who is getting all of the AIPAC support. So it's kind of like a three-way race between them. The latest poll I saw had Biss up by like
Abughazeleh.
6-7 points with Cat in second,
Really?
which was, and then both of them beating Laura Fine, which is remarkable because Fine was kind of, Fine had the pole position here, but it seems like the AIPAC money is actually dragging her down.
I bet.
It's this Evanston area. It's a very well-educated district. And so once it got out that she was secretly backed by AIPAC, it seems like all of that money is as much of a handicap as it is helping her. But so Kat may actually win this race now.
Didn't she work for
So we went to her campaign.
Media
We went to
Matters?
her for comment about what we're going to talk about now. I haven't heard back. Told her she's welcome to come on the show
Probably just
to talk about this as
hasn't
well.
read much outside.
She has
think
and let me
tank
put
stuff.
this up on the screen. She has. It turns out her national security advisor is quite the hawk, and so his name's Ben Mermelt, and he is he's the guy that does her foreign policy and national security. So there's an email going around in activist circles that has gotten to me, in which one of the kind of Washington-based organizations reaches out and say, hey, Kat's doing well. Like, can we get some clarification on what we've seen on her website, which seems to be some unusually hawkish positions. We see on there that she seems kind of to the right, more hawkish than Trump on Taiwan, more hawkish than Trump on Ukraine, but she's great on Palestine. So what's going on here? And so,
I mean, look,
they got back.
if I was the Democrats and I wanted to like do a rebrand, or at least try to, get out from underneath the fucking Israeli albatross, this would be a great way to do it. Like, these issues are so egregious that, like, ICE and Palestine are like, it's like 95% of Democrats, are against the party leadership. So it's really hard for them to try to sell anything but hardline position on those two issues. So, that's the low bar. So she clears the low bar. And then I guess the other stuff doesn't matter as much. She watched and analyzed Tucker Carlson.
And I agreed to conceal the person's name so that the person,
Yeah,
so that
she
it's
took
not this
notes on
person, but,
Tucker.
like, that somebody would leak the email to me, because it's getting a lot
She
of
thinks
attention.
the opposite
kind
of
in
that
the
is good.
background, but it's something that the public should know about too. So I'll roll through these. You don't even need the questions, but you can pause this and read them if you want, because the answers are fulsome and they kind of incorporate the question. One, he talks about his role here. So number 4. So this is about China and Taiwan.
But you weren't supposed to scroll that far down, Ryan. You were supposed to get tired of reading by that point.
Right. So he asked about China and Taiwan because they said, look on the website, it looks like the kind of concerning language on the website. Are you sure? Is this really what Kat believes when it comes to Taiwan? And so the quote here,
Definitely an
if
intervention.
elected,
Like,
Kat would strongly
was this
push for
guy
amending
trying
the
to get her to
Taiwan
lose,
Relations
though? Now that I'm
Act
thinking
to
about
include
it,
language, drop
like, was this guy intentionally trying to sink her? because you would never call somebody an interventionist. Like, even if you thought it was true, like, you would never, like, phrase it like that. You know, you would say that, like, you know, they support democracy building efforts or whatever, stuff like that, right? They would never call somebody an interventionist. That's, I, this is suspicious, this guy. I don't know, her family story is, you know, like, sounds like they've been basically working with these sort of intelligence, you know, various spurs on the intelligence industrial complex or whatever, for a long time. She definitely grew up surrounded by neocons, and she might have a lot of those awful opinions just caked into her worldview that she doesn't quite understand why they're wrong. But also, I don't know. It's not like the Democrats are supporting her or anything. You know, explosions in Riyadh, interesting. I, the guy went to a pro-Zionism rally. I don't know why anyone like that would work for Kat unless it is to sabotage. Yeah, that's really interesting. I wonder why she hired him. Why would she hire a Zionist? I don't understand. Like I said, I trust that she's correct on those issues, you know, on those two issues. That, you know, I'll give her that. I don't need to debate that, right? So why would anybody who had the opposite opinion want to work for her?
Stopping our strategic ambiguity towars defending the
And this
island
part,
from a Chinese
right?
invasion.
This is insane. Even if you thought she wanted to support Taiwan more, like, even if your opinion was that, like, oh, it's actually good that she's taking a hard position supporting Taiwan, you wouldn't phrase it like that, right? You wouldn't explicitly say, oh, we need to throw away this fucking policy that has prevented escalation for decades. Like, you would never say that, especially, like, there's just not even like a Trump, like a countering Trump, like reason to say it like that. Like, getting rid of strategic ambiguity is effectively like calling for war, you know?
Ambiguity is actually precisely kind of what AOC was mocked for presenting when she was kind of babbling and kind of searching for an answer. Like, that is literally the current American strategy towards Taiwan, is to just babble and not answer.
Like, Democrats don't know if they want to go with, oh, because Trump loves authoritarian China and he wants to give Taiwan to the Chinese, or, you know, something different. You know, like, they, to the extent that they criticize him, I think that's the flavor of it. You know, they say, they pretend that it's like Russia or whatever. It's like, oh, yeah, China, Trump doesn't want to support our allies in Taiwan, you know, that kind of thing. So, yeah.
So that China doesn't know, like, what we will
Riyadh
actually
might be the
do.
Saudis intercepting missiles headed
Kat
for
is
U.S.
saying
bases.
here through her advisor is
good point.
That doesn't work anymore. That we need to say that we're going to hit him. So as of now, China knows that Trump won't send the Seventh Fleet or any other Indo-PACOM
they
assets
use it to attack
defend
Trump.
Taiwan in the event of an all-out assault. We owe it to Taiwan and democracy to demonstrate that America will do everything possible to counter wars of aggression with force.
She needs to expose this guy
position,
if it's he was working for somebody.
From Kat there. On Palestine, strong statement. The genocide in Gaza is a disgusting failure. You've heard her talk a lot about the genocide in Gaza, and so nothing here would surprise you. But then he adds, on her behalf, that does not mean that our historical impulse to use military force first is correct. It hardly ever is, and often causes untold damage. There are a wide range of options available to both the executive and Congress, precluding kinetic force, from sanctions to NGO support, all of which are likely to produce results when applied correctly. Kat is firmly an interventionist. The world is better off when America takes a leading role in it, but that role must be ethical and lawful, and it must place human rights first. So that so we don't want to necessarily do war, but we do want sanctions.
The progressive
we do want to fund
position
NGOs
is
that
anti-war,
do these, protests
right?
and support
it's
our
always been
favored,
that way. That's
folks inside
where
these different
people
countries and
support
quote firmly an interventionist. So I don't think that's what people would necessarily have expected from what
blocking
from
a punch
how
with your
people
face.
understand her
Yeah, good idea.
when it comes to Palestine. And then on Russia, Ukraine.
She's been Ryan Roost.
If elected, Kat will hold the line. Russia cannot be allowed to eke out a win in Ukraine.
Eke out a
and
win,
Kat stands
Kat.
firmly against any attempt by the
Really,
Trump
Kat?
administration to sell out our European allies to Putin's imperialism. Kat fully supports funding the Ukrainian war effort to the hilt until the Russian forces are degraded to the point where a mere restoration of pre-war borders is possible or any other outcome preferable to the Ukrainian government. She strongly supports the forward deployment of air, naval, and ground assets to the NATO front line, as well as the positioning of dual-use missile and drone interception systems. So, ground assets, are we talking about American ground assets? Hopefully we can get some clarity from her on that. We must additionally surge MIM 104 pages, and this sounds like Ben Mermel here is kind of like a bit of a military geek, so he goes deep into the weapon systems that he wants to see placed on the border. The Chinese are closely watching our actions in Ukraine, and the outcome of this conflict will determine the nature of their attempt to seize Taiwan, possibly preventing it altogether.
This is a torpedo job, I think.
Can pull off,
I don't think AOC had anything
win.
like this.
We owe it to those that gave their lives of aggression throughout our history, and people seeking freedom everywhere to not cower in fear. Kat will be that voice on the Hill, and she won't stop until Russia is made to pay for its crimes.
Listen to this psychotic shit.
So I don't know what do you?
I think this is suspicious.
Is that what you would have expected from?
No,
Camden?
Not at all. Firmly an interventionist. It's like, whoa. And so, I mean, I guess my question is, it's like I have a lot of
Crystal won't say it.
I guess sort of charity towards new congressional candidates, having myself been a congressional candidate in the past and knowing where I was
Claude
coming
would
from,
never
just
say
being
that.
like, kind of a regular person who just wanted to serve the country. I mean,
my God, dude,
Kat has
Claude
been
would
in
never
politics
say
for
that.
a long time.
Russia
right?
will make Russia pay.
Foreign policy outside of she's planted her flag very effectively on Palestine. It's not like that's what she's known for.
Crystal, don't defend her. Come on.
I would be open to the idea that she kind of outsourced this to Ben and hasn't really fully thought it through. In which case, there's a lot of opportunity to say, this is how we end up in the Iraq War, right? This is how we end up bombing Libya. This is how we end up with failed states and doing all these color revolutions. And this is effectively the type of foreign policy we've had for
this
decades
is Hillary
going
Clinton.
back into the Cold War. And, if you want to do something
what was that weird?
This is not what it looks like.
No, he's turned
so
off.
I am anxious to hear from her directly on this. Because this is very, very surprising to me that this is the type of language that is being used here.
There's also one other weird element here. This guy Ben, according to this GW article, he was at this. He's quoted at a pro-Israel rally, where he's.
So, Kat, why did you hire this guy?
I can maybe put this on Twitter.
I should be a foreign policy
what's
consultant for
here?
Candidates. I'd be so good
what
at
are you doing at the pro-Israel? So Ben Mermel, here it is. Let me put it up. Ben Mermel, a graduate student in the School of Public Affairs, attended the pro-Israel rally alongside Harris Mowbray, who graduated from the School of International Service in 2002. Referring to the nearby encampment, there's a lot of points that they're making over there that I also agree with. I think they've done a bad job policing the anti-Semitism that sometimes rears its head within that movement, and I think that's turned quite a lot of people off. This comment aside, during the genocide in Gaza, there was a encampment at GW, and Ben her advisor went to the pro-Israel rally that protested the encampment. So that's why, maybe more to your point, that she may have just outsourced this to this guy, and he's
and that's very
it's getting up on the website and it's getting out to groups as official kind of campaign stuff.
Right,
So she's
of course.
responsible for it. But
right. If you don't have a
She
really
seemed to
formed
support it.
foreign policy view, the people you
She
surround
seemed
yourself
to
with
embrace
becomes
it.
really important.
mhm.
You know, if you like have a fully formed view and maybe you want someone who has a different ideological orientation to kind of push you and, you know, be the person in the room
Yeah,
who says,
after
well,
the
have you thought
genocide
about
too,
this?
fucking asshole.
That's kind of a different deal.
Right.
But if you're coming in somewhat unformed and you're bringing in this person who is very hawkish and, you know, just a couple years ago was going to pro-Israel protests, then you're, you know, that's obviously what's going to be reflecting your campaign. That's going to really help shape and mold your own thinking. You know, as you're kind of coming into this fresh.
But, like, you need to have an
Yeah, and then people
awareness
have talked
of
about
how
like
bad
with
faith
AOC,
all of
Matt
their
Duss's,
bullshit is.
advising her,
You know,
and you can
like,
see that
they're not,
right
they
in
don't
her
actually
language and her approach and the things she was saying at
believe
the
any of the
conference
things they
as well.
say.
And I think foreign policy has always been an area from I remember when, you know, AOC first got elected and she got that question about Israel Palestine, and she was very like, she knew there were landmines here, but she didn't know exactly where they were. And she kind of had just like a general instinct of like, I want peace and Palestinians should have rights, but I don't know exactly what to say about this. That's kind of where she was. And I think she's always been much more comfortable on domestic policy than she has been on foreign policy. And so it reminds me a bit of that with Kat. Although again, I mean, Kat has been
That's
a
what I said.
political,
She's been
you know, she's
working
been
for
a
Media
political actor,
Matters.
not a candidate, but a
Right.
political actor for a long time. So anyway, those are some of my sort of like thoughts and reflections of just,
Yeah.
you know, reacting to this in real time. But I am definitely surprised to see what is in this, you know, campaign communication that purports to speak for her and her views.
Yeah, and
I
so
think also,
the
like-
offer we
oh,
made
sorry,
to
go
Kat,
for it.
yeah, no, the offer stands. Like we reached out to Kat. She's
So she's going on Breaking Points
welcome,
next
welcome
week.
to come on. We'll
Oh yeah, absolutely.
hear her perspective at length on this.
Yep.
But go
I
ahead,
also
Griffin.
think
Sorry.
I also think that there is a definite lack of like, okay, for the Taiwan one, it's kind of hashtag random, like for what we're doing there. But for the Ukraine one, I think there is actually like a vacuum of leftist perspective on the Ukraine war. Like I don't think that there's like a lot of
Dude,
strong
check the
national
tape.
figures
I've
on the
been right the
left
whole
that
time.
are talking about how many people are dying every month there, that are talking about the average age of the Ukrainian soldier, that are talking about how the front lines haven't moved in years, or that we would have to actually deploy ground troops and start World War III to win back this landmine strewn land. So because there has not been, even on shows that I like that are pretty leftist, you know, I don't think the Majority Report talks a lot about that stuff. That's probably one of the biggest leftist shows, probably a show that Kat watches. So I think there has been like that vacuum on the Ukraine thing. But this is still pretty unacceptable. You have to like find like good people to surround you.
Exactly.
But,
you
I
need
do
to
like
have
that
the
she's
correct
been good on
look,
ICE. She's been good on Palestine.
Look, it's easy. The correct position is easy. You're against wars and all about the most extreme situations, which are nowhere near our reality. You know, the military-industrial complex has a stranglehold on politics pretty much around the Western world, and we need to do everything we can to resist them. Like, that's the basic answer. That shouldn't be too hard for candidates to rattle off, you know? Like, they should just default to that. No, I'm against wars. No, I don't want to intervene. No, I don't want to do anything that will make intervention or fucking military action more, you know, like more likely outcome, you know? Just stick with that, right? Like none of this shit about like, oh, fucking strategic ambiguity must be eliminated. Like, what are you, nuts? I mean, just they say these things as if it's like in a vacuum. And like, oh, I gotta, you know, support democracy or whatever. I mean, I think the bottleneck is that they don't have like you know, reliable access, because I think a lot of that's because of the way that we've marginalized any kind of anti-imperialist source. But like, they only have one side of the story. What I always say to debunkers and shit when they come in here, I'm like, I know your side of the story, you don't know mine. So what do you think about that for a second? Is like, you know, how can you have confidence in your opinion if you don't even know what the other guy's framing is, right? So I think with Russia and Ukraine, I think that's the issue. is people don't understand how they've been lied to, right? Like the fucking Voshes of the world, right? Like, I've been filling their heads with nonsense this whole time. These fake, like, like NED anarchist bullshit psyops they always do. Like, that stuff is effective. And I think this most recent one, I think it's only been in the last few years, really, since Gaza, that it's become so blatant that it's like not, it's not debatable anymore, and it's like you see liberals who are willing to, accurately call out their politicians for lying because it's so blatant. Maybe that'll give them more confidence going forward, but I'm not holding my breath, right? It's like we say this all the time. It's like, like progressives and like, lefties will like pat themselves on the back for knowing about the CIA coups in the 60s and 70s and 80s, or, continuing to this day. But then they won't have the confidence to recognize it when it's happening in real time, and identify it. But if you have an accurate understanding of history, you should understand that, like, the U.S. is always lying and they're always malicious. It's never about anybody's good interest. It's never about anything but profit for the ruling class. Ever. Never. You name me one situation where they had anything else other than their own personal or strategic benefit, and, mass numbers of casualties happen. You can't do it. You can't do it. There's nothing. So now in 2026, understanding that, you should have the confidence to say, actually, whatever the fuck story you're saying, I know it's bullshit. I don't know exactly how it's bullshit, but I know it's bullshit. And I know that there's no reason to fight against this country. I know that those people are not my enemy. Whatever you're saying is dishonest, right? That's the problem.
And she's been good on TV, which is important. She goes on these CNN panels and she's awesome. She's like a great fighter. She's like clearly someone we need. So I'm willing to like say,
too, is much like fucking Graham Plattner or whatever, she's, I imagine, much better than her competitors, right? So what do?
Maybe she picked the wrong guy.
Yeah,
but
you should
if
start with
these
the
are her
assumptions
views,
BS.
this is kind of a classic example of like progressivism being too broad a term and like being like, oh, you can fit all sorts of stuff.
That's right.
You can be we need to sack Vladimir Putin progressive, or you can be a non-interventionist progressive. And it's such a broad term that it becomes kind of useless. And I think people that are on the more hardcore left should probably depart from the term. But yeah, so Kat, please come on the show.
I think the Ukraine point is an interesting one to dig into a little bit more. Early on in the Ukraine war, remember there was a group of progressives who tried to put out some letter. I don't remember. It was like, Ryan, you probably
even the guy from the
better.
Quincy
like
Institute said she was
negotiations or diplomacy or something. It was. I remember it being very tame, right? It was very like, peace is good, that was basically the vibe. And they faced so much backlash for penning this letter. And it worked. Like, after that, everyone just kept their mouth shut. And they're like, oh, I guess we're just going to do this war forever. And kind of like slowly feed in weapons and, create some sort of like miserable, deadly, destructive status quo. And here we are. And, I understand why Ukraine is a difficult position for progressives, because there are competing principles at stake here, right? Russia was the aggressor. It is an illegal war. Ukraine is
debatable.
Are the underdogs. Like, it's not right what has been done to them. I would say what are, screwing around with Ukraine and using this as a proxy war is also not right. And then, of course, the competing principle there is that people are dying. This war has no end in sight. And even though any resolution right now,
there was never a winnable war from the beginning.
Resolution. There's just no doubt about that. It's going to be a very ugly and difficult pill to swallow. But meanwhile, people are dying, and the more time goes on, the worse the solution is likely to get for Ukraine. So I understand why that is a difficult issue for progressives to just kind of like take a hard stand on. And
they haven't,
because you do have these
yeah.
competing principles at play. But, you know, by and large, at this point with both parties and with the Trump administration, I mean, he barely mentioned Ukraine at all in his State of the Union. It's just become another one of these intractable conflicts.
I just don't think they would ever, like, even if it was like a subversive psyop thing, they would never back somebody who was against Israel. Like I said about Chris Bledsoe, right? I think their number one overarching issue is defending Israel in every context. And I think that they, you know, the powers that be, the, you know, oligarchs would, if they were trying to do this, they would put somebody up there who is like, you know, more wishy-washy or whatever. Like, the genocide's bad, but also Israel's good. Like that kind of thing. You know, they would never put somebody up there to like directly attack them. And I could be wrong. I mean, you know, they don't like to hear anybody say mean things about them. They're such snowflakes.
Where it is easy for every political actor to just pretend like it's not happening and allow a horrifying, grinding, deadly status quo, and dangerous, by the way, status quo to persist. You know, I mean, it reminds, in a sense, of Afghanistan, where it was like, everyone knows this is a mess. We don't even know why we're there anymore. Like, what are we even doing?
It's not hard to see why she'd be popular. Like I said, those two issues, Israel and ICE, are not hard to be correct about, you know? And it's not hard to get people on your side when they see you have a correct position on that. She did that whole thing where she was like protesting at the facility and all. Like, it really. And she's hot. She's hot as fuck, man. You know, like young, cute girl with correct opinions on at least two issues. Or, you know, mostly, I don't know the specifics, but, you know, pretty correct. Polish ice, I think I heard her say. But it makes perfect sense that she goes on Hassan's stream and people like her, you know? These issues didn't come up. I think if she was talking about this shit more openly, less people would like her, you know?
And yet it just it creates a logic of its own, because politically it's easier just to put it on the back burner and push it onto the news than to actually bring it to what ended up being a rather ugly conclusion, from which Joe Biden himself, like, that's when his approval rating falls off and he never recovers. So that's kind of where we are with the Ukraine war, which is really an across the board, you know, Republican, Democrat, progressive, moderate, everybody issue at this point, where it's like no one really wants to focus on it or talk about it because it's easier not to.
Yeah, and history nerds can fact check me, but this has lasted longer than World War I now. Like
4 years.
This is, and with frankly no end in sight, other than the complete demographic collapse of Ukraine, coupled with a genuine demographic hit to Russia. That will resonate and ring out for generations. Don't worry about them. It's insane.
Yeah.
And
all right. Yeah. Sorry, did I cut you off, Ryan?
No.
Okay.
Just sputtering with rage.
All right. Kat, we'd love to talk to you about that. We'd love to keep talking more about the Ukraine war, because I do think it's a topic. Okay.
Today, reporting revealed an email sent by someone on my staff detailing my foreign policy. The answers surprised a lot of people.
Her thing is off pace. Her lips and her audio are not synced. Just to make sure it's not mine.
Including myself. I want to be really clear. I did not know of that email's existence, and I would not have approved the language in said.
Yeah, I think this guy was trying to fucking sink her campaign. You know? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, well, a shortcut is the, you know, like Kwame Ture said, right? It's like, if we're involved, we're the bad guys, you know? Like, that's until you figure it all out, just stick with that, you know?
Email. I was also not aware of certain aspects of this individual's background, and they are no longer
Good,
on our
yeah.
staff. But part of the reason this email was so surprising is that I have been remarkably clear and open
I didn't
about
tell you I
my
drink
positions
Palestinian
regarding
blood for
foreign
breakfast.
policy. In fact, if you want to read our foreign
I
policy
love
platform
fucking
as well as our
blood
page
smoothies.
on a free and sovereign Palestine, you can go to catforillinois.com/issues. But let me be clear about where I stand on what was actually in that email. First off, the email describes me as an interventionist, which is not true. I have no idea why he would say that. I have never described myself as an interventionist. I am anti-war, anti-genocide, anti-imperialism, and anti-intervention, which is why I hold the positions I do. I have always believed and said that we should lead with diplomacy and humane foreign policy. I've been endorsed by Peace Action, the largest grassroots peace network in the world, and I firmly denounced Trump's moves to militarily intervene in Venezuela, Canada, Greenland, Iran, and elsewhere. Before I get into any other specifics, I want to add an initial caveat, and that's that military intervention is an absolute last resort. We need to lead with diplomacy. We shouldn't force regime change. And especially post-Trump, we need humane foreign policy. This means public diplomacy, the reinstitution and expansion of USAID, and reparations to the global south, particularly focused on renewable energy and infrastructure. Now, my leading principle in international affairs is the right to self-determination. When it comes to Ukraine, I believe we should continue arming the Ukrainian people. Wars of aggression are illegal. Russia's invasion of Ukraine is a war of aggression. That is an international crime. Putin is a despot, and he will not stop with Ukraine.
Despot?
We can support Ukraine by providing arms, ideally paid for through the seizure of Russian oligarch assets, but not with U.S. troops on the ground. Similarly, I believe that politically we should adhere to the one China policy. But we should also eliminate strategic ambiguity when it comes to aiding Taiwan so that way it can defend itself without putting U.S. boots.
What are you smoking? There's no limitations on them aiding Taiwan, i.e. giving arms to the most psychotic people in the entire region. People who have already fucking caused decades of fucking bloody conflict for their own selfish private benefit. No, yeah, we should give them weapons, like, more freely. The idea that, like, we have there's a limitation on our ability to fucking give weapons to Taiwan because of the one China policy is fucking, that doesn't jive, right? Like, what does that mean? Eliminate strategic ambiguity? That's not like, then that means you don't recognize the one China policy, right? So, what, like, how can you say that you're anti-war if you support giving weapons to people who are trying to start a war that nobody wants? Like, how does that doesn't follow? You can't be, I'm anti-war, anti-intervention, and then continue saying, but I still want to give weapons to all of the crazy right-wing sickos that we've cultivated all over the world. That doesn't fucking work. It sucks, man. Yeah, if you're for peace, you don't fucking give weapons to the worst people in the country. Or anybody in the country, but specifically the fucking far-right factions that we've cultivated everywhere. You know, that shouldn't be a difficult position. That's you know, anything but that is not progressive. You know, it's like not even like liberal. It's like a right-wing neocon position. Like, oh, we need to continue arming and funding and doing anything we can to help the biggest freaks in the entire country. It's like that everywhere. There's no, like I said, there's no situation where we support a good group of like revolutionaries, or like there's no situation where the people that we support would not result in a worse, less democratic living arrangement for the people in that country. There's nowhere where our intervention is even represents even the slightest hint of an improvement for anybody. I I don't take no pleasure in saying that. I'm not just, oh, it's not just America bad. That's just a basic understanding of the historical fact patterns. Look at the history books. You find me one instance where that's wrong, you won't. I don't even have to promise I'd give you anything for it because I know you can't, you know? Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, you're not in my district anyway, so. But like I said, if her opposition is like genocide's good and ICE is good, and then she says ICE is bad, genocide's bad, what do you, that's better, I guess, right? Is it bad that it like gives, undeserved clout to the Democratic Party? Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. Unclear how much of a setback that is. But it's not like people. It's not like people aren't aware of that. People aren't aware what the Democratic Party is. It's just they don't have any other options sometimes. You
On
this
Taiwanese
sucks
soil.
though.
The last thing any of us want is a war with
That's
China. This is an effort to make sure that
you
doesn't
can't
happen.
say that when you are talking about giving weapons to the Taiwanese. Oh my
So
god.
that way we can make time to work towards diplomatic solutions. We need to reinvest in those diplomatic solutions, not just between China and Taiwan, but the US and China as well. We live in a globalized world. We need to work towards being partners with China in trade and innovation. But that's only possible through diplomatic solutions and international law. I know these are all controversial subjects, but self determination is necessary in a democratic, globalized world. And that is true whether it's Taiwan, Ukraine, Palestine, or anywhere else. Invasion and aggression cannot be tolerated. The other caveat here is that any military aid for any reason must be conditional. I don't care if it's Ukraine, Taiwan, Israel, or Mexico. If weapons paid for with our tax dollars are suspected of being used to commit crimes against humanity or war crimes, we need a full arms embargo. We have to make sure that war criminals are held accountable and put measures in place to ensure that those crimes are never committed again. I will never blindly vote for military aid. Every single bill will be a separate consideration that I will deeply think about and convey why I voted for or against it. I will not vote to deploy troops for forever wars, and I will continue
sounds
to
like you
respect
would.
international law. But once again, any military aid, any military intervention must be an absolute last resort. And our troops cannot be used for an imperial agenda that will make other parts of the world worse. We need to focus on making our country better. And part of that is integrating into a globalized world. The American people are sick of our tax dollars being used for
You
bombs
just said
instead of
you want to
healthcare.
do that,
We are
though.
sick of
What are you
blind
talking
intervention in the
about?
military industrial complex, siphoning prosperity from us and
So
the rest
stop
of the world
fucking
for a
doing
quick
it.
profit. It is a moral imperative that we lead with diplomacy
You can't be
and
like,
aid,
oh,
and that
I'm against this. I'm against the military-industrial complex stealing our money, but I support every specific individual example of when they're doing that. Like, it's bizarre that. Oh my god, this is like as bad as Patrick last night. Like, he's pointing at the screen and being like, "See, this just pops into existence," and meanwhile, you can like see the UFO in the video. You could see it in the background in the clouds, and you could see it like arrive at where it becomes in front of the cloud, and he's on there being like, "Oh, you see, it just pops into existence here. That means it's fake," and this is somehow more frustrating. Like, how can you say you're against the MIC stealing prosperity when you seem to support basically every situation um, in the world where that is occurring? Where you seem to support them doing it in basically every situation in the world where it's occurring. doing just that in basically every situation in the world. Hold on. No, where that is occurring. Actually, every relevant situation. How do you spell relevant? It's not like that. Yeah. I don't know, let's change it to basically every global flashpoint. There. I feel like that was nice. I fixed it.